Just how deep a hole is Washington in? Listen up.
My question to you is, if we had one more chance to borrow all the money that we need, assuming current variables, how big would that number have to be?
Your question is that if Congress authorized no additional increase in spending or revenues forever, how much we have to borrow? I can do that question in math, but I got to
20 trillion?
I just can't do it in my head.
A lot? Can we agree it'd be a lot?
It would be a lot. It would make you uncomfortable.
Well, Scott Martin says he is already uncomfortable with government's runaway spending. He's joined by Gary B. Smith and Ann Lee. Scott, I guess why should the Energy Secretary have all the fun and be embarrassed at these hearings? But good.
I wish I was there, Neil. I mean, that's the point, right? We're already uncomfortable. We don't need more numbers. I mean, this is the whole thing. It's just like the New Orleans Saints football team, right? Why were they doing this bounty gate? Nobody was stopping them, Neil. Nobody is stopping this government. Why? Interest rates, record lows, right? So when you finance the debt, it doesn't cost you very much. And so as we look out 30, 20 years, doesn't cost us anything to do it. Just add numbers to the debt. No problem.
But, I mean, it wasn't like a Fox News alert to say that the number would be uncomfortable, right? It is, right?
It is uncomfortable. However, just because the government's spending, that in itself is not something that's bad. Of course, if the government can afford it, then and it's delivering services that the society wants and needs, then it's justified.
Do you think that's happening?
No. In my book that I wrote, What the U.S. Can Learn from China, I suggest that
very good. Always mention the title of your book, but continue.
I suggest that we need to put performance targets for the different government agencies, because this way we could actually drive more transparency and accountability in government in order to understand how our taxpayers' dollars are being spent.
Well, and that makes way too much sense, so that'll never happen. Gary, what do you make of this here? Because obviously you have another cabinet secretary, maybe through no fault of his own, just acknowledging the obvious here, that this is an embarrassing pickle we're in. Yes, it's happening under this administration's watch, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's. I think the argument's actually at a little bit higher level, Neil, and I think it gets down to basic religion or philosophy or what you think government should do. The left, as portrayed by Geithner and I guess Ann's comments, is that government is good, government can provide, and so we should give more and more money to the government because the government can propel the economy, can tell us what to eat and things like that. And then you got the other side that thinks smaller government is better because every dollar you give to the government is ineffectively spent or inefficiently spent, and the free market can do it better. We won't have a chance to really start to decide on which philosophy is correct until November. I obviously hope it's the latter, but, you know, with half the country not paying taxes, we might have more of what Geithner's saying.
Well, obviously, nothing he said today, and nothing, by the way, as Republican interrogators were asking today, Scott, hinted of resolving in the interim the $4 billion a day we're piling up in debt.
Yeah, which is the problem, Neil. I mean, I'd like to get some answers here. I mean, we've got to attack the big three: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, but again,
yeah, one guy does, Paul Ryan. You might not like his plan, but he's raked over the coals even by fellow Republicans.
That's the point, Neil. Exactly. Last year he comes out with that plan. You hear about it for 2 days, swept under the rug. Hey, Paul, keep quiet over here. Don't talk. Why? He's actually addressing the problems. I dig that.
I like that. I dig that. That's the
that's talking to the kids out there.
Groovy. You know, interesting. I found out Mitt Romney supports the Ryan plan, not the other candidates. What do you make of that?
I don't know why he would support Ryan's plan. Some of the things may make sense, but honestly, Ryan's plan doesn't really address military spending, which is a gigantic part of the budget.
But it is kind of moving the ball along, right?
Perhaps, but when I was reading the summary of it, it was saying that it would provide universal health care by providing insurance credits. But that only makes sense if you're paying taxes. What about all the Americans who don't pay taxes because they don't make enough money or are really on the dole already?
Well, we know what happens there. The rest of them pick it up, right?
But by the way, you're saying that as if the system we have now would support Medicare as we have now. The president is largely dismantling Medicare under his health care plan. So you could argue cynically that Ryan's doing that just by another means, right?
Sure, there are a lot of issues with these programs. And in my book, I also suggest that perhaps we should... What the U.S. Can Learn from China. in the idea of systematic
Well, how about having
experimentation.
money? How about having money? Is that the opening chapter? Having money would be a good way.
We do have
chapter
money.
one.
We are the richest nation in the world.
No, we don't. We have a credit line. Is what we have. But Gary, your final thought on that?
Well, honestly, with all due respect, I don't want to learn from China. I want to learn from this country's past successes. We've had great successes with smaller government back in the 20s, back in the 60s even, under the Reagan years. Those are lessons to be learned, not ever increasing big government.
All right, guys, I want to thank you all very, very much.